You do not belong in this line. Officer Ryan Whitmore's voice cracked across gate C-17 loud enough to silence an entire boarding area. And what he did to the quiet black woman standing in front of him would make thousands of strangers stop walking and stare. If you think power always wins, stay until the end of this story because this airport officer was seconds away from destroying the wrong woman's life. Ava Johnson froze for exactly 1 second as her boarding pass was ripped clean in half right in front of her face. The sharp, tearing sound sliced through the crowded terminal louder than the rolling suitcases, louder than the boarding announcements, louder than the crying toddler 2 rows behind her. Her son gasped beside her. 12-year-old Isaiah clutched his backpack so tightly his knuckles turned pale. Inside that bag was a wrinkled suit, a framed academic certificate, and the speech he had practiced for 3 straight weeks. Ava had promised him they would make it to Washington no matter what. She had worked back-to-back 12-hour nursing shifts at St. Mary Medical Center in Atlanta just to afford this trip. Her eyes looked tired. Her navy blue sweater had visible lint on one sleeve. Her sneakers were old. She looked like a woman people ignored every day. Ryan looked at her passport, then at her first-class reservation, then laughed. Not loudly. Worse, quiet enough to sound cruel. He leaned closer and said, "People like you try this scam every week. Fake upgrades. Stolen reward accounts. Then they cry discrimination when they get caught." A few passengers lowered their phones. Others raised them. A white businessman in an expensive gray suit smirked and stepped out of line as if Ava carried something contagious. An older woman whispered, "This is why flying is miserable now." Isaiah looked up at his mother with tears building in his eyes. "Mom, tell him. Tell him about the email." Ava gently touched her son's shoulder. Her voice stayed calm. Too calm. "Please verify the reservation again." Ryan smiled like he had been waiting for that sentence. He grabbed her carry-on bag and dropped it onto the inspection table. Medication bottles rolled out first. Then a folded church dress. Then a sealed envelope stamped Washington Youth Leadership Foundation. Then something strange. A black leather folder with gold lettering. Ryan noticed it. So did Ava. Her expression changed for half a second. Not fear. Concern. Ryan reached for it, but Ava stopped him. "Please do not open that folder." That only made him grin wider. "Why?" "Because your fake documents are in here too." The gate area went quiet again. Somewhere in the terminal, a delayed flight announcement echoed overhead. Then Ava's phone began vibrating. Unknown number. She declined the call. It rang again. She declined it again. Ryan noticed. Running out of options. He stepped closer. Airport security was already moving toward them. Isaiah started crying now. Real tears. "Mom, we are going to miss my ceremony." Ava knelt in front of her son right there on the airport floor. Her voice dropped to a whisper. "Listen to me. No matter what happens next, do not be afraid. We are still getting on that plane." And when she stood back up, completely composed while her torn boarding pass pieces sat at her feet like confetti from a ruined dream, even the people recording began to look confused. Because women who are truly powerless do not look that calm when everything is falling apart. And far above gate C-17, the airport speaker suddenly clicked on. Before we hear what happened next, subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications because stories like this remind people that dignity can be louder than power. And tell us in the comments what time it is where you are watching from and what city or country you are in right now. The next announcement would change everything. But Officer Ryan Whitmore had no idea his own career was already collapsing. The airport speaker clicked once. Then silence. Ava looked up, but no announcement came. Just static. Then another voice cut through the tension before anyone could process what was happening. "Ma'am, are you all right?" A young gate agent named Emily Parker rushed toward the inspection table, breathing hard, her blonde ponytail slightly undone like she had been running through the terminal. She looked at Ava, then at Ryan, then at the torn boarding pass on the floor. Her face changed instantly. What happened here? Ryan straightened his posture like a man performing for supervisors. Standard fraud investigation. Passenger presented suspicious credentials and became uncooperative. Ava almost laughed at how easily he lied. Almost. But Isaiah spoke first. His voice cracked. "That is not true. You ripped my mom ticket because you said people like us do not belong here." The words landed hard. Several passengers who had started walking away stopped again. Emily looked stunned. Ryan rolled his eyes. "Kid is emotional." Understandable. His mother dragged him into this mess. Ava slowly turned toward her son. Tears streamed down Isaiah's cheeks, but he tried to wipe them away quickly because he hated crying in public. He was 12 years old and trying very hard to feel like a man. Ava reached into his backpack and carefully pulled out the framed certificate. Gold lettering reflected the terminal lights. National Youth Science Leadership Award. First place. Washington, D.C. Isaiah had built a low-cost portable insulin cooling device for children in rural communities after watching his grandmother struggle to store medication during a summer power outage in Georgia. He built the prototype using recycled materials from a junkyard, old battery packs, and parts from broken refrigerators. He spent 8 months after school testing it in their apartment kitchen while Ava worked night shifts. He failed 23 times, burned through every spare dollar Ava had. She sold her wedding ring to buy replacement materials after his final prototype malfunctioned 2 days before submission. She never told him. She simply smiled and said they would figure it out. And they did. His invention won nationwide. That trip to Washington was supposed to be the biggest day of his life. The president of a major education foundation was waiting to meet him. A full scholarship interview was scheduled for 8:30 the next morning. Missing this flight could destroy everything. Emily stared at the certificate. Her eyes softened. Ryan remained cold. Cute story. Does not explain fake first-class access. Ava finally spoke. It was not fake. It was upgraded by the foundation this morning after they learned my mother was hospitalized, and I had to delay our original flight. Ryan folded his arms. Convenient. Ava opened one of the medication bottles that had rolled across the floor earlier. She showed the prescription label. Patricia Johnson. Stage for kidney failure treatment. She had spent the previous night sleeping in a hospital chair while her mother drifted in and out of consciousness. At 6 that morning, her mother grabbed her hand and whispered one thing. Do not let Isaiah miss his future because of my present. Ava left the hospital crying in the parking garage before forcing herself to smile for her son. She had not slept in 31 hours. She had every reason to scream. Instead, she remained calm. That calm started making people uncomfortable. Even Ryan shifted slightly. Then Emily noticed the black leather folder still sitting unopened on the table. The gold lettering on the front made her face go pale. She looked at Ava again, this time with genuine confusion. Miss Johnson, why do you have that folder? Emily did not touch the folder. She stared at the gold seal pressed into the leather like she had seen a ghost. Ava's jaw tightened. Her answer came fast. It belongs to someone expecting me in Washington. That was all she said. Ryan stepped between them before Emily could ask another question. Nice try. He grabbed the folder anyway. Ava moved forward instantly. Do not open that. Her voice rose for the first time. Not loud, just sharp enough to cut through the terminal noise. That reaction was all Ryan needed. He smiled like a man who finally believed he had found proof. There it is. Guilty people always panic when someone gets close to the truth. He flipped the folder open in front of everyone. Ava closed her eyes for half a second. Inside were legal papers, corporate documents, flight manifests, internal complaint reports. Ryan's smile slowly faded because none of it looked fake. It looked official, very official. Emily leaned closer and her breathing changed. These are internal airline disciplinary reports. Ryan snapped the folder shut. Unauthorized possession of private corporate documents is a federal issue. Congratulations, ma'am. You just made this much worse. Ava stared at him in disbelief. Those documents are not stolen. Ryan laughed. Then explain why your name is nowhere on them. He held up the top page. The name printed there was covered by a thick folded tab. Ava reached for the folder. Ryan pulled it away. Airport police officers arrived seconds later. 2 officers. Officer Melissa Grant and Officer Trevor Hale. Both looked exhausted like they had been dragged into another routine airport argument. Ryan immediately took control of the narrative. This passenger attempted fraud, disrupted boarding, and may have stolen confidential airline records. Officer Grant looked at Ava. Is that true? Before Ava could answer, Ryan added one more lie. And she became aggressive when confronted. Several passengers gasped because they knew that was false. But none of them spoke up. Not yet. That silence made Ryan bolder. He pointed at Isaiah. The kid can wait with child services if necessary. Ava stepped forward so fast that even Officer Grant reacted. Do not talk about my son like he is luggage. The entire gate went silent again. Isaiah grabbed his mother's hand with both of his. He was shaking now. Ryan lowered his voice and leaned closer to Ava, so only she could hear him. Women like you always think tears and calm voices can manipulate the system. Not today. Ava stared directly into his eyes. What system? The one you keep rewriting every minute to justify humiliating me. His expression hardened. Officer Grant asked for identification. Ava handed it over. Grant looked at it, then looked again. Her eyebrows narrowed slightly. Ryan noticed. Problem, officer. Grant hesitated. No. Ryan snatched the identification card from her hand before she could finish reading it. He glanced at it for less than 2 seconds and laughed again. Temporary identification card. How convenient. He snapped it in half. Right in front of Ava. Isaiah screamed. Mom. Emily looked horrified. So you cannot destroy personal identification. Ryan ignored her completely. He signaled toward the surveillance camera above gate C-17. Everything is being recorded. Good. Let them watch me. Stop a criminal before she boards an aircraft. Then he made his worst mistake. He turned to airport police and said cuff her and remove her from my gate. Not from the airport. My gate. Like he owned the building. Like public humiliation had become entertainment. Ava slowly looked around at the passengers recording everything. Then she said something so calm it made even Officer Grant pause. Please make sure all cameras keep recording. You are going to need every second of this. Officer Melissa Grant did not move. Neither did Trevor Hale. Ryan noticed the hesitation and his voice grew sharper. That was not a request. Remove her now. Grant kept her eyes on Ava. She had worked airport security for 11 years. She knew panic. She knew guilt. She knew entitled passengers who screamed when things did not go their way. Ava looked nothing like any of them. Her breathing was steady. Her shoulders were relaxed. Even after having her ticket destroyed, her bag searched, her identification broken, and her son terrified in front of hundreds of strangers, she looked like someone waiting for a clock to strike a very specific hour. That calm started infecting the room. Passengers whispered. Phones stayed raised. A teenage girl near the charging station whispered to her mother, "Why does she seem so sure?" Ryan heard it and snapped. Because manipulators practice calm. That is how they fool people. Ava looked at him. Or maybe truth does not need to scream. That line hit harder than shouting ever could. Ryan turned red. Emily quietly bent down and picked up one of the papers that had slipped from the leather folder during the chaos. Her eyes scanned the page, then widened. She quickly flipped it over before anyone else could read it. Ava noticed. Emily noticed Ava noticing. Neither said a word, but something had shifted. Then Ava's phone rang again. Same unknown number. This time the screen flashed Washington, D.C. Isaiah looked at it and whispered, "Mom, that is the same number." Ava declined the call again. Ryan laughed in disbelief. Still pretending to be important. "Answer it. Put it on speaker." Ava slipped the phone back into her pocket. "No." Ryan stepped closer. "Why not?" Ava answered with complete calm. "Because the person calling deserves a private explanation for why I am being illegally detained." Several people audibly reacted. Illegal detention. Those words made Officer Grant straighten immediately. Ryan tried to regain control. Nobody is detaining her. She is free to leave after questioning. Ava tilted her head slightly. "You destroyed my identification, tore my boarding pass, blocked my access to my flight, threatened to separate me from my minor son, and publicly accused me of crimes without evidence." She paused, then looked directly at Grant. "Does that sound voluntary to you?" Grant said nothing. Trevor shifted uncomfortably. Ryan interrupted before either officer could speak. "Enough. Open the rest of that folder." Ava's expression changed for the first time. Not fear. Disappointment. She quietly said, "Ryan, do not do that." It was the first time she used his first name. His confidence cracked for a split second. "How do you know my name?" Ava glanced toward the badge on his chest, then toward the folder. "It is in there too." The color drained from his face for half a second before anger covered it. He ripped open the folder again and pulled out another document. His eyes scanned the page, then stopped. He flipped to another page, then another. His breathing changed. Emily stepped closer. "What is it?" Ryan immediately slammed the folder shut. "Nothing relevant. Handwriting. Notes. Internal nonsense." Ava spoke softly. "Read page 6 out loud." Ryan did not move. "Read it." Silence swallowed gate C-17. Even the boarding announcements from nearby gates felt far away now. Officer Grant stepped forward. "Sir, if that document involves this situation, I need to review it. Ryan backed away. No. That was when the airport loudspeaker clicked again. This time it was not static. It was a live voice. Calm. Professional. Urgent. Attention Gate C-17. We are looking for Miss Ava Johnson. Please remain at your current location. Senior executive staff are on the way. The entire terminal froze. Ryan blinked once. Then twice. Ava closed her eyes and exhaled slowly like she had been expecting that exact sentence all along. No one moved. For 3 full seconds, Gate C-17 felt suspended in air. Then people started turning their heads toward the terminal escalators. 3 executives in dark suits were walking fast enough to look panicked, but controlled enough to avoid running. 2 airport legal advisors followed behind them carrying tablets. A woman in her late 50s led the group. Silver hair, navy blazer, sharp posture. Everyone at the gate recognized her face from airport advertisements and business magazines. Evelyn Carter, Chief Executive Officer of Horizon Air. Ryan's confidence shattered so fast, it was almost physical. He looked at Ava, then at Evelyn, then back at Ava like his brain was refusing to connect what his eyes were seeing. Evelyn reached the gate and stopped cold when she saw Ava standing beside the inspection table with torn boarding pass pieces on the floor. Medication bottles scattered. Isaiah crying. Airport police present. Phones recording. Her expression hardened instantly. What happened here? Ryan stepped forward, desperate to control the story before it collapsed. Ma'am, this passenger presented fraudulent credentials and unauthorized company documents. We were protecting corporate security. Evelyn slowly turned toward him. Her voice dropped, so low everyone leaned in to hear it. Fraudulent credentials. Ryan nodded too quickly. Yes, ma'am. And the documents appear stolen. Evelyn looked at Ava. Ava said nothing. She simply handed Evelyn the broken pieces of her identification card. Evelyn stared at them. Her jaw tightened. Then she looked at Ryan with something far worse than anger. Disbelief. Do you know who she is? Ryan swallowed hard. A passenger under investigation. Evelyn laughed once. It was not humor. It sounded like someone losing faith in humanity in real time. She turned toward the crowd. Ladies and gentlemen, I sincerely apologize for what you just witnessed. Then she looked directly at Ryan. This woman is Ava Johnson. Effective this morning at 6:15 Eastern Standard Time, she became the newest voting board member of Horizon Air. The entire gate exploded into noise. People gasped. Someone dropped a coffee. Emily covered her mouth. Isaiah stared at his mother in complete shock. Mom, what? Ava looked down at him softly. I was going to tell you after your ceremony. Ryan stumbled backward. That is impossible. She is a nurse. Evelyn nodded. She was. Until 6 months ago when she anonymously exposed a multi-million-dollar vendor fraud operation inside our company after her late husband discovered accounting irregularities before his death. Ryan froze. Ava's husband had been an airline mechanic who died from an unrelated illness 2 years earlier. Before he passed, he left Ava a file proving executives were approving unsafe maintenance shortcuts through outside contractors. Ava spent 18 months quietly gathering legal evidence while raising her son and caring for her sick mother. She never sold the information. She refused media deals. She turned everything over to federal investigators. The company saved hundreds of millions after the fraud ring was exposed. Several executives went to prison. Evelyn looked at the leather folder. Those are the final documents appointing Ava to our Ethics Oversight Board. She was flying to Washington to testify before federal transportation regulators this morning. Ryan looked physically ill now. That is not possible. Why would someone like her be on your board? The question slipped out before he could stop it. Dead silence. Ava slowly lifted her eyes toward him. Someone like me. Ryan realized what he had just said in front of hundreds of witnesses. In front of cameras. In front of legal counsel. In front of the woman whose signature now outranked nearly everyone in the building. Evelyn stepped closer. Officer Ryan Whitmore, your employment with this airport is terminated effective immediately. And this conversation is far from over. Ryan opened his mouth to argue, but no sound came out. His lips moved. Nothing else. The entire gate stared at him like they were watching a man realize gravity existed after stepping off a roof. Evelyn did not blink. She extended her hand toward one of the legal advisors. Tablet. Now. The attorney handed it over immediately. Evelyn tapped twice and turned the screen toward Officer Melissa Grant. Pull security footage from exactly 32 minutes ago. Start with audio. Grant connected the tablet to a nearby gate monitor, usually used for flight updates. Within seconds, the giant screen above gate C-17 flickered. Then the footage appeared. Every person at the gate looked up at once. There was Ava standing quietly in line with Isaiah. There was Ryan approaching her. There was no aggression, no fraud, no disruption. Just Ryan staring at Ava's first-class boarding pass for several seconds before smirking. Then the audio kicked in. Crystal clear. People like you try this scam every week. The entire gate reacted instantly. Some gasped. Others cursed under their breath. A woman near the window whispered, "Oh my God." Ryan looked like he had stopped breathing. But it got worse. The footage continued. It showed Ava politely asking him to verify the reservation. It showed him ripping her boarding pass. It showed him dumping her bag. It showed medication rolling across the floor while Isaiah tried to help pick everything up. Then came the moment that changed everything. The camera angle from the inspection table captured Ryan opening Ava's black leather folder after she repeatedly told him not to. Evelyn paused the footage. Zoom in. The screen magnified the document Ryan had held. His own name appeared in bold letters at the top of page 6. Ryan Whitmore, Internal Conduct Review. Date. For months earlier. Evelyn looked at him like she was dissecting him in real time. Ava quietly spoke. Keep reading. The legal advisor swallowed hard and read aloud. Multiple employee complaints regarding racial profiling of black passengers. Unauthorized secondary screenings. Verbal humiliation. Selective targeting of passengers based on appearance. Recommended immediate suspension pending final review. The crowd erupted. Emily looked physically sick. You were already under investigation. Ryan snapped back. Those complaints were never proven. Ava looked at him calmly. Because every victim lacked evidence. Until today, Evelyn resumed the footage. The screen showed Ryan snapping Ava's temporary identification card in half. Then threatening child services. Then calling her aggressive while she stood completely still. Then came the final clip. The hidden microphone near the inspection desk captured Ryan leaning toward Ava and whispering. Women like you always think tears and calm voices can manipulate the system. The words echoed through the terminal like a confession. Even Officer Trevor Hale looked disgusted. Ryan immediately panicked. That audio is out of context. Evelyn turned slowly. Then explained the context. Silence. Pure silence. Then a teenage passenger stepped forward. Then another. Then a businessman. Then an elderly couple. One by one, witnesses walked toward airport police offering phone videos from different angles. Different audio. Different timestamps. Every single one matched perfectly. Ryan looked around desperately for someone to defend him. No one moved. No one spoke. Even the officers standing near him had taken one subtle step away. Isaiah stared at the giant screen, then looked at his mother with tears still on his face. Mom, you knew all of this. Ava looked at him softly. I suspected. I just needed him to expose himself without interruption. Ryan whispered one broken sentence. You set me up. Ava shook her head. No, Ryan. I gave you chance after chance to stop destroying yourself. You refused every single one. Ryan finally understood what real silence sounded like. It was not quiet. It was the sound of an entire terminal deciding you were finished. He looked around like a drowning man searching for someone willing to lie for him. Nobody moved. Officer Melissa Grant stepped forward first. Her tone was cold and procedural now. Ryan Whitmore, based on video evidence, witness testimony, and destruction of personal identification, you are being formally detained pending investigation for abuse of authority, discriminatory misconduct, unlawful destruction of private property, and falsifying incident reports. Ryan laughed once. It sounded unstable. Detained. For doing my job. Trevor Hale stepped beside Grant and removed Ryan's airport access badge. You stopped doing your job 30 minutes ago. You started performing power. Ryan's hands trembled. He looked at Evelyn. You cannot do this to me. I have worked here 9 years. Evelyn did not react. 9 years makes this worse, not better. One of the legal advisors stepped forward holding another tablet. Sir, your employment contract includes a morality and discrimination clause. Because your actions created legal exposure for Horizon Air, your retirement package is frozen pending review. Your severance has been revoked. Ryan stared at him in disbelief. What? The attorney kept going. Horizon Air is also filing civil action for reputational damage caused by your conduct toward a sitting board member and her minor child. Estimated damages are being calculated now. Ryan looked physically weak. Then his personal phone began vibrating. Over and over. Text after text after text. He pulled it out with shaking hands. His face turned pale. His wife had sent one message. "Why is your face all over social media? What did you do?" Another message from his brother. "Call me now." Another from someone saved as dad. "Tell me this is fake." Ryan slowly looked up. Across the gate, dozens of strangers were posting clips. The teenage girl who filmed from the charging station had already uploaded the video. It had exploded online in real time. Millions of views were climbing by the minute. The caption on one viral clip read, "Airport officer humiliates black mother and child before learning she runs the airline." Another read, "He thought she was powerless. He was wrong." Emily quietly showed Ava her own phone. National news outlets were already requesting footage rights. Civil rights organizations were reposting the videos. Former passengers began commenting with old stories about Ryan. Names, dates, similar experiences. It was growing by the second. Ryan looked at Ava like she was the only person who could stop the avalanche. "Please, tell them this is too much. Tell them I made a mistake." Ava stared at him for a long moment. This was the same man who threatened to send her son to child services. The same man who mocked her grief. The same man who believed her skin color and clothing made her disposable. Isaiah squeezed his mother's hand tightly. He waited for anger. He waited for revenge. Instead, Ava spoke with surgical calm. "The consequences are not happening because of me. They are happening because every time you humiliated someone. Before today, you thought nobody important was watching." Her words hit harder than any punishment document. Ryan's shoulders collapsed. Officer Grant guided him away as cameras followed every step. No dramatic struggle. No shouting. Just a man walking through the ruins of his own choices while hundreds of strangers watched in complete silence. And for the first time all day, Ava finally picked up her mother's medication from the floor and placed it gently back into her bag. The moment Ryan disappeared behind airport security doors, the energy at gate C-17 changed. The air felt lighter, quieter, like a storm had finally moved past and left everyone standing in the strange silence that follows survival. Ava knelt in front of Isaiah again. This time her hands were shaking, not from fear, from exhaustion. 31 hours awake. A mother in the hospital. A son still wiping tears off his face. A future hanging by minutes. Isaiah looked at her like he was seeing her for the first time. "Mom, you are on the board of an airline." Ava let out a tired laugh that almost became a cry. "As of this morning." Isaiah blinked hard. "Why did you not tell me?" "Because today was supposed to be about you. Not me." That answer broke him. He wrapped his arms around her neck so tightly she nearly lost balance. "I thought we were going to lose everything." Ava held him and closed her eyes. For one fragile second, she looked less like a corporate board member and more like what she had always truly been. A tired mother who kept carrying impossible things quietly. Evelyn stepped closer but stopped a respectful distance away. Her voice softened. "Isaiah, your scholarship committee delayed tonight's deadline after hearing what happened. They are waiting for you in Washington. And they requested a private presentation tomorrow morning instead of a public session." Isaiah stared at her. "Why?" Evelyn smiled. "Because apparently half the country already knows your invention helps diabetic children keep insulin safe during power outages." Donations had already begun flooding into the Science Foundation after clips of Isaiah crying beside his broken certificate frame went viral. A medical supply company had offered to fund manufacturing. A university in Boston requested a meeting. A nonprofit in Texas wanted pilot testing in rural clinics. Isaiah looked overwhelmed. "I just wanted Grandma to have cold medicine during blackouts." Ava smiled through tears. "That is exactly why people believe in you." Emily walked over slowly, carrying a brand new printed boarding pass. "First class." She placed it in Ava's hand with both of hers. Her eyes were red. "I am so sorry for not stepping in sooner." Ava looked at her gently. "You did step in. Eventually matters." Emily started crying anyway. Then an older white man from earlier stepped forward. The businessman who had smirked when Ryan humiliated Ava. He could barely look her in the eyes. "I judged you before I knew anything about you. I am ashamed of that." Ava studied him for a moment, then nodded once. "Learn from it. That is enough. No speech. No humiliation. Just truth." The gate agent announced final boarding for Washington. But before Ava could move, her phone rang again. This time she answered. Her aunt screamed through the speaker. Patricia is awake. Her mother had regained consciousness in the hospital and had already seen the viral clips. Through weak laughter, she whispered one sentence over the phone. Baby, you missed your father calling. He would have been proud today. Ava could not speak for several seconds. Tears finally fell freely. Isaiah grabbed her hand. We should go. Grandma needs me to become famous so I can pay her hospital bills. Ava laughed through tears as nearby passengers clapped softly. Not loud, not performative, just human. As Ava and Isaiah walked toward the jet bridge, Evelyn called after them. Ava turned. Evelyn smiled. Your board meeting can wait. Be his mother first. Ava nodded. That was always the job she cared about most. They stepped onto the plane together while the terminal behind them stayed completely silent. The plane lifted through heavy clouds just as the sun began breaking over the horizon. Atlanta disappeared beneath them in patches of gray and gold. For the first time that day, nobody was yelling. Nobody was recording. Nobody was demanding proof that Ava deserved to exist in the space she had already earned. There was only the low hum of the engine and the soft sound of Isaiah sleeping beside her with his head resting on her shoulder. His framed certificate sat safely under the seat in front of him. His fingers were still wrapped around the edge of her sweater, like some part of him needed proof that she was still there. Ava looked out the window and finally allowed herself to feel everything she had delayed all morning. Her mother in a hospital bed. Her late husband whose warnings saved an entire company. Her son who turned pain into invention. And a man at an airport gate who looked at her skin, her clothes, and her exhaustion and decided her life had less value. That part stayed with her the most. Not because it broke her, because it reminded her how often people make permanent judgments based on temporary appearances. 2 hours later, the plane landed in Washington. As Ava and Isaiah stepped off the aircraft, they expected another quiet hallway. Instead, they walked into applause. Hospital leaders, Science Foundation executives, college representatives, reporters held back behind security barriers. Children living with diabetes stood near the front holding handmade signs that read, "Thank you, Isaiah." One little girl rolled an insulin cooler beside her wheelchair and smiled at him like he was a superhero. Isaiah froze. His lips trembled. I did not know any of this was happening. Ava squeezed his hand. The best things usually happen when you build something to help others instead of impressing them. During his presentation the next morning, Isaiah stood on stage wearing the same wrinkled suit from his backpack. He spoke clearly. He explained battery efficiency, cooling duration, and production costs. Then he stopped reading his notes. He looked directly at the room and said my grandma should never have to choose between groceries and medicine during a blackout. Neither should anyone else. The room stood up before he even finished speaking. He received a full scholarship, funding for national production, and a partnership that would place his invention in low-income clinics across all 50 states. But the moment Ava remembered most happened later. That night in her mother's hospital room. Patricia looked weak but peaceful. She held Ava's hand and whispered, "Your father used to say character is what you reveal when someone thinks you are powerless." Ava smiled through tears. I wanted to humiliate him back. Patricia shook her head gently. But you did something harder. You let truth do the work. Weeks later, Ryan Whitmore accepted a plea agreement, lost his job permanently, and became a national example of what unchecked prejudice can destroy. Training policies changed in multiple airports. New anti-discrimination protocols were implemented. But Ava never celebrated his downfall. She focused on building systems where fewer people would ever experience what she did. One night, Isaiah asked her the question millions of people online had been debating. Mom, why did you stay so calm when he humiliated you? Ava looked at her son and answered with the truth. Because angry people often expect you to become the version of you they already invented in their minds. Calmness forces truth to arrive faster. Isaiah nodded slowly. Outside their window, city lights flickered in the dark like tiny reminders that even in a broken world, light keeps showing up. And now tell us honestly, if you were standing at that airport gate, would you have stayed calm like Ava, or would you have reacted differently? Comment your answer below.